This is Valley News Live at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. The cleanup continues for some people after a wild weekend of weather with rain, wind, even a tornado. The good news is we get a couple of quiet days before big changes head our way. Let's get right over to our chief meteorologist, Hutch Johnson, with the latest details. Hutch?
Mike, thanks so much. There is a lot to talk about weather-wise, and today is that break. Sunshine aplenty. Cool morning temperatures, though, by the way, as we head into the afternoon, it looks to remain quiet for most of us. A first alert weather day has been issued for Wednesday by our team to, well, give you that first alert to a big and dynamic storm that'll be making its way through our area. Here are a couple of the headlines. This storm system is going to move through, bringing rain and thunder for us. I am concerned that we could see a couple of strong to severe storms, potentially based on the timing, but we'll keep you apprised of that. We will all have wind on Wednesday. After that, cool air moves in. We have some patchy frost Friday and more widespread frost possible on Saturday. So you guessed it, another first alert weather day for big changes frost-wise. Make your preparations now before we get into the weekend. It could be a little more widespread. Mike, right now temperatures in the 60s for most to around 70 degrees down in the south. It's cool up there near Rolla in the 50s. We'll be in the 50s for most of our evening here in the valley. I'll have details on the storm system for Wednesday and how much rain you can expect on a windy midweek day here in a minute.
All right, thanks, Hutch. Police say 3 suspects will be booked into jail once they're discharged from the hospital, all following that weekend shooting at a St. Paul bar. A packed dance floor emptied in seconds when police say the men opened fire. A 27-year-old woman was pronounced dead at the scene. 14 others were hurt. It happened at the 7th Street Truck Park. That's a bar and food hall near the Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul's downtown area. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention urging some students to get tested twice a week for COVID-19. It says areas of the country in substantial transmission rates should get unvaccinated students tested twice a week, especially if they're involved in sports. And for areas of the country in high transmission, the CDC is recommending canceling sports and activities. A check of the latest transmission rate map from the CDC shows all of Minnesota and most of North Dakota in that high transmission category. A former top U.S. drug regulator says younger children between the ages of 5 and 11 could start getting COVID-19 shots before the holiday season. But first, the FDA must approve, and the CDC as well, must approve emergency use authorization when they meet later this month and early November. Pfizer says its smaller dose shots for younger kids are safe and effective, but as Deborah Alfarone reports, some parents are split over getting their children vaccinated.
Former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb says it's possible children ages 5 to 11 years old could begin receiving COVID-19 vaccines by Thanksgiving if the FDA and CDC give approval in the coming weeks.
This should be available almost immediately after the CDC makes a final recommendation and be available in pharmacies and perhaps pediatricians' offices as well.
But it comes as new CBS News polling shows a nearly identical number of parents split on plans to vaccinate or not vaccinate their children.
And I'm very happy that they're really working hard to get this vaccine rolling out so fast. I still feel a little confused.
So far, one thing Virginia mom of 2, Paulina Mans, and West Virginia mom of 5, Ashley Potter, agree on is that they need more information.
As a parent, my job is to protect my child. As soon as our pediatrician says yes, then my child will, Lindley will get the vaccine.
More than 187 million eligible Americans are fully vaccinated, and new U.S. COVID cases are declining. Yet the president's chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says the country shouldn't prematurely declare victory.
But with Halloween less than 3 weeks away, Dr. Fauci is urging families to go trick-or-treating.
Particularly if you're vaccinated. But you can get out there. You're outdoors for the most part and enjoy it.
Dr. Fauci adds those who are not vaccinated should consider using an extra degree of protection. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
The CDC said it will release new guidance on holiday gatherings soon. Meanwhile, the former FDA commissioner says clinical trials for the COVID-19 vaccine in children under 5 are moving cautiously, but with speed, though vaccine data for the group likely won't be available until next year. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of members of our U.S. military remain unvaccinated as the Pentagon's vaccine mandate deadline approaches. According to the Washington Post, vaccine compliance in the active duty Navy is an impressive 90%, but for the Marine Corps, it's just 72%. though both services share the same November 28th deadline. The lowest overall rates for vaccination are the Army Reserve and the Army National Guard, both at 40%. It's been 5 months to the day since fire destroyed Gigi's Playhouse, a Down Syndrome Achievement Center in Fargo. Valley News Live is partnering with Gigi's to help them rebuild the Playhouse. Today, tomorrow, and Wednesday on Valley News Live at 6. Join us. We'll have stories on their mission, the people they serve, and how you can help rebuild the Playhouse. Today is commonly referred to as Columbus Day, but many communities know it as Indigenous Peoples Day. Fargo Public Schools use this day to explain what the day means to their students. There are over 1,000 Native American students from 30 tribes within the Fargo and West Fargo school districts. Over 100 teachers have been trained to teach Native American content in schools, saying it's important to have all students feel appreciated.
It's good for them to see other Native American students and families and role models within the community. That way they don't feel so alone, within their school building.
Now tonight there's going to be a powwow hosted by the Moorhead Indian Education Program. There'll be food trucks from 4:30 to 6 or until the food is gone. That powwow begins at 6 o'clock on the west side of Moorhead High School. As we near the end of the Hispanic Heritage Month, many immigrants are still fighting for permanent status here in the United States. Federal lawmakers continue to look for ways to pass sweeping reform, though some say not fast enough. Reporter Skylar Henry shares one man's push for change.
Thousands in Washington say creating better pathways to citizenship for millions of immigrants in the U.S. should be on the top of lawmakers' priority lists. Perhaps no one more than Ricardo Ortiz, a 30-year-old from Oaxaca in southwest Mexico, who moved to the States 2 years ago. Ortiz joined CASA, the largest grassroots immigrant advocacy organization in the Mid-Atlantic. For him, it's personal. He grew up attending marches alongside his mother in their village.
A lot of them are here because they don't have opportunities in their country. They want to live in a better place for their children, for them, and also for their communities.
As debate over reform heats up, Ortiz and CASA are regularly in D.C. When he isn't, he canvasses the streets of Baltimore, Maryland, and the surrounding suburbs, making connections with the city's growing Latino population.
In your time in Baltimore, and since you started with CASA, what have you learned?
I learned a lot of things. I think the principle is I learned about my rights, about the rights of the immigrant community, but also how to speak English.
Outreach is another pillar for CASA, providing job opportunities, rental assistance, and even COVID vaccine information for thousands.
Hola, Enrique, ¿cómo está?
And Ortiz is there, organizing food distribution sites for 250 people a week.
To be help to the Hispanic community in general. It doesn't matter not only for Spanish, it's help for the all kind of different nationality.
But it's shoring up permanent status for millions that's at Ortiz's core.
We worked so hard for this beautiful country, and they want just living their lives and live a good life.
A good life only made better with comprehensive legislation, Ortiz says, for immigrants and their families. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Baltimore, Maryland.
And the last day of Hispanic Heritage Month is Friday. Leaf collection begins this week in Grand Forks. If you've got some things to rake up, crews are planning to make at least 2 complete passes through town, but that's going to depend on Hutch's weather. Pile leaves next to the curb, away from trees and mailboxes. Streets and gutters must be clear of debris so that it doesn't plug storm drains. If you want to haul your leaves to one of the yard waste drop sites in town, you can do so through mid-November. A popular baby cereal is under recall. What you need to know coming up later on Valley News Live at 4.
And Hutch's weather looks interesting. Wednesday, a major storm will be making its way through the region. Wind for all and some getting rain, even snow in the region. I'll have hour-by-hour details on that. And oh yes, it's followed up by a little weekend frost. I'll have all that you need to know in your forecast. Join us. Weather's next.